We're coming at you live here on the Hawk Zone. Coming to you, it's a late one for us, but you know what? This is we had to come on here because Seahawks pulled out a win in Santa Clara, 20-17 over the Niners. Just when you thought maybe the season's done, man, we're right back in the thick of things. So we are going to get into all of that, plus your questions, comments, Q&A stuff on the other side.
Well, I'm the best corner in the game.
For this run. What a run. Get off me.
DK.
Yes, sir.
Hey, it's John Schneider with the Seattle Seahawks.
And Washington's got a win. Leon Wilson with catch.
Geno Smith and Jimbo. The Seahawks are going to host the NFC Championship.
Every year, the NFL does. Is it going to be another 9 and 8?
Players who've got to finish something.
They have to fix the offense.
Part of the success and part of the
ambition of being the LOB one again. Here, that's trading DK Metcalf.
Play him aggressive.
This is the HawksZone Rundown with Ryan and Bryce.
Seahawks over the Niners down in Santa Clara, 20-17 today. Man, awesome to get a victory here. A lot of people just, writing this team off, especially going against the Niners in their house. Geno Smith, prior to today, 0-5 against the Niners here. Big game for him. We talked about signature wins and how he hasn't had any yet. This is one of them, man. Signature win for Geno, and talking about putting a game-winning drive together with 2 minutes to go in the game, and I mean that's how you're supposed to do it. Drive at the end was awesome, and then caps it off with a run into the end zone, man. Yeah, you know what? One thing about it, man, we've talked a lot about Geno in the show, Bryce. He did part of the second half of the game. He throws a terrible interception. It's one of those things like, man, here we go again, but the one thing you got to give him credit to is that he bounced back. He sort of just, put that in the back of his mind, because he could have easily, being 0-5, getting the pressure getting to him down in San Francisco, that thing could have unraveled. It could have came out and just let it get to him, and he didn't. Seattle comes up victory, man. What's some of your thoughts here?
You're gonna have to take the bad with the good with Geno. And this was a signature win for him. This is something I've been saying he hasn't done yet. And he got it done. It wasn't pretty. Let's be honest about it. It wasn't a pretty game. It was a slugfest. It reminded me of games Russ would have sometimes early on versus the Niners when Jim Harbaugh was there. And it wasn't pretty. It was just whoever had the ball last could pull it out. The bigger thing for me today is the defense. They are starting to develop, and they're starting to look like the defense that we thought we were going to see most of the year. So we'll get to that in a bit, but yeah, I know with Geno, the interception, like, you can't do that. You can't. And I know people are going to be like, oh, they won, so let's talk about, like, we're going to be real here. Like, that in another game could kill you. That is the pick six versus the Rams last week. Like, you can't turn the ball over. Throw it away. Throw it away. Like, that's what it drives me nuts, is you have to be able to take, some L's in plays where it's like, yeah, they got us. They tried to run the ball more. I'm still not happy with Ryan Grubb running like 75% of the offense or more out of shotgun still. Like, get to more under center shit. I thought Olu played well. Like, Olu and Abe made a difference, and I could see a little bit, which is surprising. Especially the Olu part. Abe, I thought, would have some sort of an impact, even though he's on a snap count. But Olu in the run game, I felt him more, and we weren't chasing snaps. It was the one, but that was kind of an odd one. I think something was a miscommunication there between Geno and Olu on when the count was. But yeah, no, man, it was, this was a win they needed. Everything's still in front of them. All the beat writers are going to say, oh, everything's still in front of the Hawks. Like, yeah, but, I'll give Jackson Bevins credit for this. He posted just after the game. He says, this doesn't change the outlook he has on the team, and it doesn't change mine. This is still a transition and building season. It's a great win, and it's something you can build on. Now build on it. Don't come back and throw a dud up against the Cardinals this week.
Yeah, I think you know what the one thing is they came out of a bye week, so a lot of time for Mike and a lot of things happened within those 2 weeks. You had a player cut, you had a player retire, and that was just for what we've seen. Anything behind the scenes, this is kind of twice now for Mike with these long stretches coming out having their best games of the year. The 10-day layoff, going to Atlanta, taking care of business. Now 2 weeks, and this is a bigger win because this is a better team. I understand the Niners might not be the Niners of the last couple of years, but they still have a good team, man. They still have a good football team. They have the experience. CMC's back and healthy. And like you said, man, the defense coming on twice now and really stopping the run was the biggest thing. There was a few times where the Niners got loose, but no big plays. And like you said, that's what Mike McDonald wants to do. Everything underneath, no big plays in the receiving game. They converted a lot on third downs a bit with Brock and what was it, Jennings, right? But other than that, there's gonna be some. We're not, like you said, we're transitioning. But when you look at it right now, I mean, I get what Jackson's saying, but at the same time, hey man, they're gonna go for it now. Still, you're playing the Arizona Cardinals leading the division. You win that game. Now you're tied for first. So you want to talk about a gritty game or an ugly game. This division is ugly this year. And we talk about the first couple of Pete Carroll years, how bad that division was. They win a division going 7-9. But they built on something huge because you go in, you win the division, you got a home playoff game, you had this guy Beast Mode come in your house, and he's part of your culture now, and you beat the defending champions, and that was something you could now, something we could really become something here in Seattle, and then roster starts changing and players coming in. But I think this team is it's interesting because, like you said, back is huge. Now can he stay on the field the rest of the season, yet to be known, but that's big. And Olu, yeah, you're right, man. When I was watching Olu today, it was like you were a little worried about that, right? Because he hasn't played a lot, and you brought in a guy like Connor Williams because you didn't think this guy was cutting it, but he held his own, and the offensive line played okay. So you kind of want to build on whatever you can build on, any pauses. But I don't know, man. I mean, we're not going to be, hey, let's get ready for the Super Bowl. Remember, Mookie was joking about that, but you got to feel confident that you went in the Niners' house, got this win. So there's a lot to build on. If this defense can come out and play like that against Arizona, I mean, there's no reason. And this offense didn't look good today. So once we start clicking a little bit, whether that's Ryan Grubb figuring a few things out or whatever, then yeah, I mean, there's no reason we shouldn't go compete with the Cardinals.
I think the biggest thing that's going to be basically the thing this whole year is going to be this interior of this offensive line. You get an A back. He'll probably play a few more snaps next game. Cross is holding down his part. The interior is where this team is going to have its pitfalls and struggle points. And again, today they couldn't get a couple inches again. I don't know what Ryan Grubb needs to see more of. Running up the gut on 4th and inches when everyone knows that's what you're going to do isn't going to work. At least with the K9.
But that's a Ryan Grubb thing, right? Because we know what your guards are like.
So what more do you need to see? That's what I don't get. Why is that even in your play chart of cool? We're going to run it up the middle on 4th and inches when we couldn't do it before. And even the one that K9 got, his rushing touchdown, he went off tackle to the left. They had Sundell come in at fullback, and go ahead, and he bounced it out to the left side. There were things like that he's still figuring it out. There needs to be more under center just throughout the game. They had some in the first.
They started off, yeah,
and it fell apart again. You have to stay committed to certain things. The one thing that made me happy is we saw DK come back, but you saw, I think, the first true glimpse of post Tyler Lockett era Seattle receiving core, because Tyler had 2 catches for 19 yards. Those really early in the game, and that was it. He didn't see the ball again, and it was 17 catches between DK and JSN for almost 200 yards of the passing offense, because it was JSN
at
with 10 for
110.
110
Yeah. DK
on
with
11
90.
targets, and DK 7 catches for 70 yards. That to
Well,
me was what I like to see is JSN didn't fall off again after his big
yeah.
game versus the Rams.
And I think you and I talked about this is kind of what we thought was going to happen anyways. It was going to be JSN taking over that number 2 role. And as long as whoever your offense coordinator is this year, Ryan Grubb, can incorporate the 1-2 punch, then, I mean, that's what happens when you're in the number 3 receiver, is that you're just not going to see a lot of action. And Tyler's lost explosiveness too. I mean, I know you and I feels like just last week when we talked about that New Orleans game when he had 2 post routes and just blew the top off and Geno threw those dimes. I mean, man, a couple years is a couple years in football, and you lose a step, you're not going to be doing that. So, yeah, I mean, so it happens quick. He's savvy. He's a veteran. You love him on this team this year, and if he can help out JSN just with that kind of stuff, then that's great. Because I think we don't think he's going to be here next year. I mean, the money alone, you can't. We had. We talked about that with Curtis Allen, right? You can't have a third receiver making that much money on your squad. So, it is what it is, but it's great to see that JSN's taken that step. And like you said, didn't fall off because DK came in and made some big time grabs. So there was good things about the offense. I want to see more of a flow. Like you said, you got to stay under center a little more. You can't just roll everything. Okay, this isn't working. Let's kind of fall back to our comfort zone as far as Ryan Grubb's concerned and, do that. But I mean, look, if you're going to do that, the quarterback sneak thing, I thought they should just quarterback sneaked it again. I didn't like the call. I mean, especially going up the middle there, but then with Zach, I mean, I don't know, man. Everything about that call was just, if you're going to do it, just quarterback sneak it. If not, come up with something more creative than that, because that just doesn't work right now with this squad.
No, and that's the whole thing. Like, you have to understand, and this is what's driving me nuts with it, because my coaching hat goes on when I watch a lot of what this offense does. And when your interior of your line is a problem, running up the middle is not going to be something they're going to obviously figure out and get. And the problem is when you do something like what they're doing where they're handing the ball back, you got to think K9's roughly 7 yards deep, right? From the line of scrimmage to where he is. The quarterback turns and hands the ball on those dive plays. He's getting the ball at roughly 4 yards, right? There's about a 3-yard gap close there. Well, that D line is getting enough penetration to reset that line of scrimmage a yard or 2 back. So he's getting it, and they're like right there with a yard gap. It's not going to work. Like, what I'd like to see them do is start doing like some play action boot out with Geno and leak K9 out into the flat and dump the ball to him. Like, use a short passing game, kind of like what Bill Walsh used to do with Roger Craig in those 49er eras, where it was like, hey, we don't have necessarily the meat to go up the middle. We're going to get Craig out in the flats and use that as an extension of our run game. These short little passes. And that's where I even look with Ryan Grubb, like, dude's got to get rid of the all curls. Like, the whole all curls thing is ridiculous. Like, it's just get rid of it. It doesn't work. You have to run other concepts. But it was, overall, there were positives in the right direction for this offense. And I thought Abe and Olu made a big thing. The other guy, that I think has kind of been a pleasant surprise, I'd say since about week 2 of the season, is AJ Barner. Everyone dogged that dude in camp. And when I watched him, and people were saying, oh, he's lumbering, or oh, he's this, he's not very, like, yeah, sure, he's not your freaking speed tight end, but he blocks well, and he catches the ball out of the backfield enough that, or out of the tight end position. He's also a really young player. I think he was the youngest player at his position this year in the draft. He's playing a lot of snaps for a guy that we didn't expect to play because he's supposed to be our third tight end. Like, he's a massive upgrade over Pharaoh Brown. And in some sense, I think he's a better tight end for this system than Noah Fant is. And you don't have to pay him the $11 million or $21 million contract you're paying Noah Fant. Like, again, like we talked to Curtis Allen on our previous show, Noah Fant should not be on this roster next year. They don't use him.
Yeah.
And so there's things like that with this team where I just kind of look at, again, the roster construction, and I go, oh, like, I can see these pitfalls. Why are they there? But we understand. But the thing for me too, I'm going to put this one up in the chat right now from Drew Sports, and Ryan, you can chime in with your thoughts. How are you guys feeling on Charbonnet? Honestly, he's been extremely underwhelming. One of the Bosa sacks was a horrible play by Charbonnet where he basically picked Lucas for Bosa and Bosa got home.
Yeah.
Dude, Charbonnet's going to be on the roster, I think, unless they draft somebody that's more explosive because they're not giving Kenny Mack any of those touches. But I don't see the 1-2 punch that they kept talking about with K9 and Charbonnet. Like Charbonnet just doesn't have enough short area quickness to make it work with this line. So unless they revamp this line,
right,
and this offseason, I don't see the value in Charbonnet. Great, he can pass protect, but I can get another third down back that's good in pass protection. Like you can get those; they're not hard. But if you're going to be a 1-2 punch back, I need more punch out of you than what I'm getting.
Yeah, I don't see the 1-2 punch either. And I agree, he has been underwhelming. I know exactly the play he's talking about. It was horrible. I mean, I don't know what he was doing on that play. And yeah, essentially, it led to a sack. But yeah, people talk about, well, that's Charbonnet's strength. Well, you better be doing it 100% of the time. But also, there's more to it than that. Like you said, like you got to have that punch. Like we need to see something with you in the running game, or just go get someone else. Yeah, they gave up a second rounder. You look back, hindsight, yeah, he was picked too early, way too early. Because it's all Kenny, it's all Ken Walker, right? I mean, he's taking the brunt of it. So, like you said, unless you revamp and get some all-star guards, and you create these massive holes, I mean, it's just not. I think that's who he's going to be. But man, touching on this win. Right. I want to touch on the defense, right? But touching on this win as a whole. First of all, I want to just say, like, for us, this is awesome. I mean, to go in and beat the Niners, finally, man, right? So we got to be fired up about that aspect and feel good for Geno. And I know we're talking about certain things that he's got to do. But the other thing I'll say, too, about this is that, we talk about all the time, we're 5-5 now. Right. And I didn't think they were going to win this game. Right. But you came out of the bye. I said, coming out of the bye, we're going to know what the rest of the season is going to be like. Because I said, if they lose this game after having 2 weeks off, you pretty much know this is probably maybe another cut, maybe some more young guys. I think now, with, say, Ernest Jones at linebacker that they like, and he had a good game. Tyrese Knight looked okay. They're going to play some young guys. Kobe Bryant's playing good as a young guy. But I still think now they feel like, hey, the division's here. So I think what this does is that we could win 8 or 9 still. And then it puts you in a spot again. And we could go on a run, or this team's hard to predict right now. But my point is that looking forward, we talk to guys like Curtis. Man, if we win 8 or 9, Geno will still be on the squad. We will extend him for a couple seasons. But my thing is, I want to see a young guy drafted still, and not because of Geno, because I think we need to eventually develop somebody. And Geno could. I mean, he's the only thing that we really critique Geno in is his decision making, right? Everyone talks about his arm talent. Yeah, we all agree it's there. He makes some great plays. I just love the fact, I feel good for him that he put together that 2-minute drive and came out with a victory. Because I think it was just that monkey was so heavy on his back that he finally got it off. Because he knows, he knows, and it was getting chippy, man. Divisional game, these guys don't like each other, so I felt good for Geno. Ken Walker getting scrappy. So that's how I look at it right now. I think it's a transition year, like you said, but man, this division, it's just not that good. That they're also looking at it like we can go get this thing still.
I think this division's in a transition as well. The Niners have been the power for however long, right? They've been the power for, we can say, since basically COVID. They've been the kind of the power of this division.
Yeah,
it's in transition. They are, we beat them. We beat them at their house, not like we beat them at home. We beat them at their house.
Yeah.
When you talk about the quarterback situation, yes, I think if they finish with 8 or 9 wins, Geno will be back next year. I want to see Geno behind a proper offensive line, what he can do a little bit. Like I've done a real solid deep dive on Geno's season so far. And yes, there are decision-making questions, 100%. But there's part of me that looks at it and we go, like, they can't run the ball. Like, you listen to the things we're repeating week in and week out. They can't protect. They can't run the ball. It's a lot on a quarterback when the game's in your hand every single play. You kind of have that final swipe. You know, Tom Brady's talked about it on numerous shows since he's been retired. Like, you have to trust my judgment, and I have the final swipe on what we do and if we do it well or we don't. I think we need to give Geno an actual line to see what he can do. See if that decision making improves a little bit. Like, he's running for his life most of the time. He's under, duress most of the time. But when he has a bit of time, which you saw today, besides that one bad throw he had, that one pick, which was horrible. I'm not discarding that. He put the ball and moved the ball. Like, the ball was moving and they were getting JSN involved and they were getting DK involved. And you saw that. So it'd be interesting, if Olu, we got Ian Victor here and he put one in here that's a good one and it's kind of touched on it. If Olu continues to play well throughout the second half of the season, those guard spots need to be the big focus in the offseason, along with getting depth and developing the line. If Olu hits, say Olu works out, there's one spot now where you got a guy on still 2 years of a rookie deal left, right? You can fix the guard spots. You got the tackles. Listen to what Abe Lucas is saying. I don't know if you heard his press conference. He even said it's not chronic. It's not a chronic injury. What I think he did do is I think he tore his patellar. That's what his issue has been, is the patellar tendon, which we know what happened with Jimmy Graham and other players that have had that injury. It's a pretty hard injury to come back from. He's been able to make it back. He looked good. His conditioning isn't there. That's why he's on the snap count. We both know it. His conditioning is not there. I agree, though. They need to draft a quarterback, and this might be the year for them to do it in a way. And I get people are going to, there's no good draftable quarterbacks in this class. Yeah, there's no first-round talents, but there's quarterbacks that have been taken outside of the first round, Brock Purdy being one of them, that if you put them in the right system and develop them and you get those pieces, they can turn into something. You're not in the NFL anymore where you, based on how simple things are becoming in the NFL because of the college game and what these coaches are doing, you don't necessarily need Peyton Manning and Tom Brady as your quarterback. You need a guy, if you have all the other pieces, that can just manage the game and get the ball to your playmakers. If you go out and say they get Quinn Ewers in the second round and they fill a spot that they need, and don't give me this O-line, we need to draft O-line, because drafting O-line is not the answer everyone thinks it is. Yes, you need to develop some guys, sure. You have 3 guys to develop currently that we just drafted: Jarrell, Lamea, Haynes. They all need to be developed. Go get some veteran players that know how to play offensive line in the NFL. Go get some veteran guards and not stopgaps like Lincoln Tomlinson. Go spend the money and get guards. Surround that. That's the way to do it. If you do it that way, dude, we might be able to flip this next year. And we might see, like we've been saying, hey, 2025, we need to see this team push for a playoff and be a contender. You're still in transition, but I agree with you. They need to draft a quarterback.
Yeah, here's one. Let's go Hawks. Geno got the job done. Yeah, I mean, hey, man, I think a lot of people are hyped on Geno right now because he finally did, signature win, so we can't say that anymore. He got his signature win. You went into Santa Clara, took care of business. I mean, it is what it is, right? He finally did it, and I think a lot of people are happy for him because he's taking a lot of heat. He's taking a lot of heat for not getting it done, or the moment's too big for him. And I think this is another interesting thing because he can go back to it's too hot in the kitchen and I got to get out. But having a win like this can maybe settle him down and be like, you know what, I can beat any team in this league. Yeah, I can go into anybody's house and put a 2-minute drive together and come out with a victory. So I think just confidence-wise for Geno Smith as a quarterback of this team, it's just going to give him confidence moving forward because that was sort of missing, those signature wins against divisional opponents that have just been in your head the last 3 seasons, including this one. So, I mean, I feel I'm fired up. I think the fans are fired up for him. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he comes out in Zona and plays. We got a lot of divisional games coming up, man. So it's crazy. You look at the division. If they lose today, it's funny because this season is like we're looking forward to the offseason, but we're also right in the thick of things still. We lose today, we would have been having a different conversation here today. Like, not just about the game, but just the season in general. Like, now you're 4-6. the Niners are ahead of you by 2 games. Cardinals are ahead of you by 2 games. You would have lost how many divisional games? Now you have a chance to play the Cardinals, who, you and I talked about last season, man. Like, they got something brewing. And a lot of people were like, yeah, they're the Cardinals. Nah, man, they were a scrappy team last year. But you talk about culture and guys transitioning, buying in. Gannon is their head coach, right? A whole new culture. And that's what we're trying to do here. And I think for Mike McDonald, this has got to give him a lot of confidence too, because losing 5 of 6, a lot of people talking about him, just like, is it the coaching staff? Are they not getting it done? Biggest win for Mike, right? You got to say that too, right? Biggest win so far for Mike McDonald?
Oh, it's 100%. It's a culture win for him. It helps establish that identity a little bit of what he wants to do. And let's not gloss over this fact. We brought him in to deal with McVay and Shanahan. That was the big thing. We need to be able to handle these offenses. 19 and 17 points in both the games, the Rams game and the Niners game. McDonald's done his job. Now, I think there's a caveat to this, and I think it stands true to what happened with Baltimore. What's been the biggest difference now since Ernest Jones has been here? Our run defense has gotten so much better. He is a guy that needs linebackers to help run his system. Ernest Jones is absolutely a trend, how do I want to put this? He is a huge piece in this transition from what we've been doing, what we were doing at the beginning of this year, to now how our run defense is playing. Up until the point we got Ernest Jones, we were the 27th run defense. In the last 2 games, full games he's had of week prep and everything between the Rams and the Niners, we're now 6th. That jump is huge, and that's because and the other person I want to give props to today outside of Witherspoon, who played fantastic, Tyrese Knight showed why I think they moved off Dotson and got that dude in the game.
Yeah, talk about this defense, man. I want to touch on what you just said, because I think, like you said, the linebackers are so important to Mike's system. We moved off of our 2 linebackers that we signed in the offseason real quick, and that's a testament to Mike, man. And that's just something like, how do you look at that? Was that a situation where Mike went into John's office and said, listen, man, this is not, you got to get me something different here. Like, you got to get me something different, because this is my whole defense runs through the linebackers. And these guys, I know we tried it. I know we threw some darts on the board. It's not working, and you and I talked about Baker early on, and you watching film on Baker, it was clear. Dotson was a situation where, hey, I want to see this kid Tyrese Knight get on the field here, because I like what I see, and there's a reason why we drafted him. And so you and I talked about that. We talked about Curtis too, as far as, hey, maybe we just hey, let you get picked up with another team, because we're probably gonna sit you down with Tyrell Dotson there. But yeah, man, talk about that, and just talk about Ernest Jones, man. We give up it seems like this is a win for John, and obviously a guy that could be a centerpiece of this defense moving forward if we get his extension done for him.
I definitely think Ernest Jones is going to be a vocal point of this defense going forward. I think it's going to be very similar to the Leonard Williams situation. You gave up the pick, you're going to keep the player. But for today's stats, Ernest Jones had 13 total tackles, 6 of them solo. Tyrese Knight, 10 tackles, 4 solo. Those are your 2 inside backers. Those are good numbers. You held CMC to under 100 yards, who's been our freaking kryptonite. I look at the other guys that had the highest number of tackles. You had Julian Love with 9 tackles, 7 solo, a pass or tackle for loss. You had Devin Witherspoon with 8 tackles, 3 solos. 3 pass defense. He tips the one that ends up being the pick for Hankins. And another young guy that I think has been overlooked ever since his rookie year is Kobe Bryant. He had 5 tackles, 3 solos, and a tackle for a loss. Kobe Bryant's coming in and stabilized that other safety position. There's no way in my mind that Rayshon Jenkins comes walking back in and offer the IR and goes, yeah, cool, give me my job back. You can't take Kobe Bryant out of this. Him and Love are playing phenomenal together. There were other guys there today, like Mafe and Derek Hall played really well. Leonard Williams played well. What you could see here is, I think what we saw today was a better representation if we had had certain players the first time we played the Niners, might have made a difference. Because you got to think, in that case, and I just bookmarked it here, and I'll bring it up because I think it's a really interesting point to make, is like the Niners people are going to talk, and we know this. Oh, injuries. We were missing this. We were missing that. Okay, so when we first played them in week 6, we didn't have Byron Murphy. We didn't have Robertson Harris, who, again, he had a good game. We didn't have Ernest Jones. Tyrese Knight didn't play. Reek Woolen didn't play. Abe Lucas didn't play. That's a lot, dude. Like, they didn't have Kittle today.
Yeah, and the
Bosa
thing is,
played. He didn't play the whole game, but Bosa still was a factor.
he was a factor. Yeah, and the thing too, and look who Bosa was going against the first game. Like,
right.
come
There's
on,
your
right?
point.
We didn't even talk about that. And then you talk about, and I was just gonna say, you look at the contrast, the difference between the run game, and they didn't even have CMC, and that was a stretch there where we were getting run down our throats, and we laugh about it with, I think every backup on the Niners run every backup running back on the Niners would put up career days, and it capped off with that when we needed that third down stop, the guy just went for 80. And nobody even knows his name, but now CMC's back, and we just held them. Like, how many times have we just stopped them right at the line of scrimmage? Guys swarming, guys hitting. It was good to see, and I agree with Kobe Bryant, man. And that's a guy. Listen, Jenkins is on the other side of 30, right? He's not a guy. He was another. In my thought, was another guy you kind of threw a dart at a dartboard and said, okay, well, we need another safety. We got rid of 2 of our safeties, so we got to at least get another one in here. But you got this guy, Kobe Bryant, making a transition to the new position, but he's looking good. So, there's you look at these pieces, you talk about transition, and we talk about this team. Like, we talked about, do you gut this team? Do you gut it down to the studs, or do you have enough talent in a lot of areas where you just have to make the smart moves? The thing about John, and I think we know, obviously, number one priority is that interior offensive line. But the thing about John that I think he has to show us is, can he make the right moves? Because you can have pieces in place. You can extend DK, and you got JSN. That's a given. You got your 1-2 punch of receiver. You got Ken Walker. You want to extend Geno, cool. You got some nice pieces on defense right now. But how do you elevate this team? What pieces are you bringing in? Now, Ernest Jones looks like a great piece, but I think the biggest thing is, because I think we agree, man, if we can get, and I'm not saying these guys grow on trees, but if we can get a veteran, good interior lineman, offensive lineman on just one side of the ball, and if you want to try to develop another guy on the other side and whatever, and great, I think that's going to go so far for this squad, and man, I'm just hoping and praying that Abe they pitch count him properly, let him make sure he's right, because I don't want another situation where Abe comes back for a few games and he's on the shelf for another year, because man, he's a talent. And man, if he can stay healthy, and I know it's one game, but if he can stay healthy, and all of a sudden we're back to talking bookends, that would just be such a lift for this offensive line.
No, it 100% would be. And I think that's the key, right? If Abe's good and Abe can go through an offseason without recovering from a surgery, and, Abe truly is good, it changes. You can really focus on that interior and really, dive in, because you do have Mike Jarrell as someone you can develop behind Abe Lucas. And, maybe you get yourself another, mid-round tackle or something like that to develop behind Charles Cross. Like, I don't think George Fan will be back next year just due to the injury situation and the money. But, there's moves to make, and we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, and we'll talk about that more and more as it comes. But the thing for me is, this is the type of win a team needs that is on that teeter point of how the rest of their season's going to go. Because now you've got energy. Now you've got life.
Yeah.
Yes, there's things to clean up.
Sure.
That's fine. That's the job of the coaching staff and everything. And like you said earlier, we have to see in this offseason, how does John Schneider add to this? How do we keep going? The biggest thing I wanted to see in this game was, okay, even if we had lost the Niners, was it close? I've said 20-17 for the Niners is what I thought this game was going to be. I thought it was going to be a close game. Flip the score the other way. Great. I'm happy we got this win. Now, the key thing is, consistency. Make sure that this isn't a high that falls into a letdown versus the Cardinals. The Cardinals are going to come into Seattle. I think it's in Seattle. And it's going to be a game. You've got the Cardinals, the Jets, the Cardinals. And then you're into the NFC North.
Right.
Like you've got, the next 3 games, I think are Packers, Bears, or Packers, Vikings, Bears, Rams.
Yeah.
But if you win the 2 versus the Cardinals,
the divisional games,
you have a huge shot at winning the division still. It's still in play, which is you're so lucky that this division is so all over the place this year and just, kind of a shit show. But no, honestly, man, like good statement win, signature win for Geno. I think this is going to help Geno's confidence, and the thing was too, is he threw the bad pick, but he still completed 78% of his passes. He still moved the ball. He didn't get gun shy. Yeah, they need to fix some things with the run game and the run scheme and how they do things because it's just not working. Like K9, 14 carries, 45 yards, 4 yards a carry. Like that's better. It's getting there. It's better than 2, but we want to get that number into 5 or 6. Like get K9 involved. And if you can't get him involved as much in the run game, then get him involved in the passing game, which, he only had 2 catches today for 5 yards. Like get him involved somehow. Like he's a weapon. Use him like the Chargers used to use LT. Like LT would hurt you as much out of the backfield as he would in it.
Yeah.
But no, honestly, man, like it's good to have some uplifting spirit for once because we've come on here a lot of times in these post-game shows and been like, okay, here are all the problems. And this is where, they need, like, yes, we're still going to talk about those things. And for people that are tuning in, like, if you think that me and Ryan, just because they win, are going to be like, oh, yeah, everything's great and rosy, like, no, we're going to tell you like it is. But it's good to get the Hawks back in the right direction. And it's good for Mike McDonald and what he's trying to build here. It's still not perfect. And it might not be perfect for 2 years, but they're going in the right direction. Throw one up here. Seahawkers podcast tuned in. Thank you, Brendan and those guys for tuning in. Go Hawks.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it's just, like you said, I think it's just not getting too high on the team. Like I'm pumped for the win. When Geno ran that in, you're getting up, you're high five, and you're pumped. You're pumped. Like, we won this game. But we are looking at it too, like, we're not going to say now this team's just going to run off of 4 wins here and we're going to go in and smash the Cardinals. It's taking it week by week, and I think that's how you got to look at it. But I really think that this gives the guys a lot of confidence. And the biggest thing for me, man, is how that defense held it down. Because I'd rather have that and the offense struggle a little bit than just be involved in some shootout where, again, the Niners run for 200. But we're going back and forth. We're gunslinging and we're putting up points, like sort of that Detroit game where there's just no defense, and that just is not what you want to see because it's easier for this offense to kind of get back on track a little bit. So if this defense kind of plays like it is, stops a run, pins your ears back, gets pressure. Great to see Draymond Jones get a sack, right? And did you see how fired up he was? Yeah, I mean, guys are talking about him. Like, this guy's not earning up to his contract. And so it was just great to see him get involved. Byron Murphy having a great game. And I think Spoon's best game, just felt like his name was getting called a lot on the broadcast today. He was just all over the map. And I think that's kind of how you want to see this guy used in this system, just be in that Swiss Army, like Mike had in Baltimore. But I just think that if this defense just stays consistent and slowly improves like they've been doing, you can build on that. Because I think this offense will get right, and we don't have to be the top offense, but just get smooth. Like you said, work on a few little things. And because we have the talent. But if this defense, man, you want to hold a team like the Niners in their house to 17 points, you got a good chance to win a lot of football games in this league.
100%, man. 100%. And, tomorrow we got our show with Mookie, Pulse of the Hawks, and we'll dive into this even more. I'm going to rewatch some more of the game, take a look at what the Cardinals are doing. But it'll be good to talk with Mookie and kind of, get his vibe on how he felt this went today, where he sees this, giving this team some life and how they can move forward and what that looks like. So it'll be a good time.
Yeah, guys. So check that out. We got Mookie Alexander coming on. We're going live tomorrow again. So And guys, so anybody that tuning in today and you haven't went down and subscribed to the channel, go down, hit the sub button, like the video, share the video, and that helps us out a lot. And everybody that's been watching, tuning in, we appreciate it. But yeah, so let's keep this thing going. Let's keep this. How crazy would it be? I mean, if we just kind of hover around here, we're right in the mix with all the ups and downs this season. It's crazy, man. We still have a chance for a division here. So I'm excited for this win, man. I'm going back and I'm gonna watch this game too, because yeah, it's just there's things you miss when you watch it once, and you always got to watch the film and watch the tape again. So it's gonna be awesome. So that's it for us tonight. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.